Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Girl. And today I'm super excited to interview Keith Coley. Now, Keith has been a Chinese medical intuitive for over 14 years and graduated with a master's degree from the Academy for Five Element Acupuncture in 2004. He has seen many patients over his career and has come to know that the healing of the heart is the ultimate healing for all of us. In this show, we talk about QiGong, we talk about the Ness wellness system, and a lot of other things. So I can't wait for you to hear the show. Let's go say hi to Keith. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Keto Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhige, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX and heal your energy for life. Hey Keith, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm excited. You are just a character, and I know that you are full of wisdom with all of your studies. So for the listeners that don't know you yet, will you just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. It's a really boring beginning. I grew up in the Midwest, so, a lot of flat land and scrubby forest. And I grew up as far away from where I am as a professional as you can be. And I had no idea I would head in the world of health care, let alone this particular area, which is Chinese medical background. And through some circumstances of family members needing help that Western medicine wasn't addressing, especially reproductive issues, I moved towards the Chinese realm because of a recommendation. So I took this family member to that practitioner in Springfield, Missouri, and I watched miracles take place with endometriosis, with migraine headaches connected to hormone fluctuation, with a lot of pain issues, which also were cyclical as well. And I was blown away. And then I had treatment myself, and I was like, okay, this is it. I've been curious about the world of energy since I was a child, and this seems like a great avenue to pursue that. I decided I was going to go back, grab a few classes from the local university that I hadn't captured before, and then head down to South Florida to attend a 3-year straight educational experience at the Academy for Five Element Acupuncture. And that was the beginning. That was my gateway into the world of healing and just preventative health for men and women.
Oh, cool. So what is so the school that you went to, so now you're an acupuncturist?
I started out as an acupuncturist. I got my master in acupuncture from that academy. And yeah, when I got out, I did a very specific, you could sort of call it a collective family style. Because in Chinese medicine, it was very much about each family had their own style of acupuncture. And then communism came along in China and tried to homogenize all of it. So when you hear the words traditional Chinese medicine, it's not traditional. It's communist. Based Chinese medicine, meaning they took all of the individual beauty out of each family style and said, you all have to do it this one way under the threat of death. So either you left or you succumbed. And so I went to a school that specifically stressed recapturing a lot of the magic of those family styles. So it's an unusual style, and I got out practicing that. But then I had following teachers, as you always do when you get out of school. And those teachers took me further of, for lack of a better way of describing it, the esoteric aspects of Chinese medicine. And so I don't needle anymore. I don't needle anymore. I gave that up probably about 6 or 7 years ago because one of my primary teachers early on was Paul Fraser, who then lived in Boston, who introduced me to our Qigong teacher, Master Owen Wei, who lives in the Napa Valley area.
Oh, okay. Okay, so, and Qigong has replaced the needles?
Yes. Qigong always was underneath probably what set me apart from the other as being different, how I did things differently. Was one of the aspects of it was the Qigong when I was practicing with needles. Because what you do is you take the energy that you're cultivating, and this is a huge part of what the gong that I hit with a hammer all the time is. I did talks when I lived in Nashville not too terribly long ago. We moved from there recently, and I would give these talks in town called Life Force, the missing variable from the health equation. And what that means is we talk about detoxification, we talk about cleaning everything out and the right balance of this and the other, but harmony is, and harmony is often not talked about in the Western, even alternative world of medicine, and certainly not the idea of life force. So the Qigong is about cultivating life force, and very few things I've found actually did this. And so when you have that as your backdrop, your foundation, no matter what your tools are, that is what is fueling your tools, whether it's needles, whether it's massage therapy with hands-on that way, whether it's hands-off, whether it's a My Health, which we can get into in a little bit, in your hands. All these things are given an much extra boost by the energy you've cultivated through Qigong. Qi, in this case, stands for life force. Gong is what we would call cultivating or work. So it's life force cultivation or life force work. And so that has always been a part of my practice because thankfully I met Paul Fraser at that school as an adjunct professor, and he taught me this particular Qigong style and then introduced me to its creator, Master O. And so I can't say enough about the background of the cultivation I've had for 15 years through that form of Qigong. And then also how it steered my practice into, as opposed to using a tool as an interface, such as a needle or herbs or other Chinese medical tools, it takes the tool, the intermediary away or out of the equation and causes you to have the ability to directly connect to the client, whether they're in the room with you, on a table, or if they're on Mars. It would make no difference the distance.
Really?
And so that has been the bedrock. Yeah, that's the bedrock of what I do.
Wow. And that's why you're going to Sacramento?
Yes. Well, actually, he's down in Napa Valley area.
Okay.
He even has like vines in the front part of his 20 acres. And so that's a new place for him. He was in the Bay Area for most of his time since 99 here in the States. And I'm going there for his advanced workshops he has every year. And if you've been with him for a certain amount of time, have been an instructor, and so on, you get a chance to go deeper into, for instance, I'll tell you the magic of this place and the magic of the Qigong. He has, I don't know if you know much about magnolia trees, but when I lived in the South, you have them everywhere. Mm-hmm. And magnolia trees bloom once a year. Well, on his end, the magnolia trees so far in 2018 have bloomed 3 times.
How many?
He has had flowers there 3 times.
Wow.
He has had flowers there blooming all year long, far, far past their window of blooming. The plant life there does not respond like it does anywhere else. Now, why is that? 2 reasons primarily. 1, he takes the energy that he cultivates every day and he infuses his land with it. Then he has such a great relationship with nature that he requested that the plant life there bloom more often so that his students could enjoy their beauty. And therefore you have a land of 20 acres that does not act like land anywhere else that I've ever heard of. And that's not a fantasy, that's a reality. You can go there and witness it. And that's the kind of world I stepped into when I was introduced to Master O and the idea of energy cultivation. So that life force can be infused into land. What do you think it does when it's infused into human beings or animals?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Magic.
wow. That is crazy.
Health is restored.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. It is crazy. Trust me. My mouth still drops open at the whole thing.
Wow. I want to learn how to do that. That is something I'm very interested in learning because, I've always wanted to be a healer ever since I started studying nutrition in 2007. And that seems to be something that, if you could actually make a difference in nature, that's a miracle.
It is. And since we are an extension, and really we are a part of nature, that's the part that the modern era has created this sense of disconnect from nature because of our climate-controlled environments. We go from climate-controlled vehicles to climate-controlled buildings, and a lot of us just don't have that kind of connection that most of human history we've had. And so when you really take that into consideration, that we are a part of nature, and this energy that we are able to cultivate and to fine-tune within us is everywhere. So in a lot of ways, it's about becoming more in harmony with nature. To get into women's health, which has been my major focus for 15 years, because that's the way it works. Just to be quite blunt about it, men are very difficult, usually in my experience, to encourage them, to convince them to pay attention to their own health. Women seem to be innately more in tune with what's going on in their bodies. And I have a few reasons why I think that is. Being a guy, it's always speculation because I don't know from experience, obviously. but women are really great at it. And you look at a woman's reproductive cycle, and she just has to pay more attention to it. It draws her attention to it. Men don't have that blatant, signs going, hey, pay attention. And so when you think about how we've disconnected as a modern culture from nature, we have lost that sense of connectedness and the internal synchronization with the external world, meaning nature. When those are synchronized, when you're synchronized with fall, when your internal environment is synchronized with winter, then everything works better. When you are disconnected from it, you have lost your planetary compass for your health. And when I started seeing that in my clients, I realized that a huge part of them getting better was the realization that they're a part of planet Earth and that her huge, enormous electromagnetic field feeds our field. And if you can be synchronized with that field, you have a North and a South Pole, so does the planet. If you're synchronized with those poles within you and the Earth, then you automatically function better. You have more energy, you have more rhythm, your cycles are more in tune with the whole planet. So you're healthier. And so women have the beautiful advantage of having this obvious monthly feedback mechanism that shows them how in sync they are or not. And it's a beautiful thing, says a guy who doesn't have a monthly cycle.
Yeah, trust me, it's not that beautiful. Mine's been gone for quite a while, and I'm celebrating that.
Well, and it is a celebration. You're bringing up something beautiful. It is a celebration to move into that next phase of your life.
Yeah, I think that I feel that way, but I think a lot of women don't. It's very frustrating, and it's, a difficult transition for many.
It's very difficult. And if there again, I have not lived in any Asian cultures. So what I have to say about this is truly through speaking with people from those countries and reading the material that's been written for a few thousand years about what it's like being a woman in those certain countries. And it says from different material written and from certain people I've spoken with, they don't historically have the same issues with the transition from reproductive years to that energy being moved from reproducing babies into other projects. And they don't have historically the rough transition. And so the question's always been, why not? Oh. Why are my clients here in the States having so many issues? And yet historically, before they adopted our way of living, they weren't having the same type of difficulties across the board. So, again, why? And that was always my question. And Chinese medicine had a lot of ways of explaining why that is. And a lot of it is, and I've been sort of a male feminist now for the last 12 years, I'd say of the 15, once I had some realizations. Women are in modern times, from a male perspective, this male's perspective, are overloaded with a sense of responsibility on every front, with not enough support in their lives for all of that sense of responsibility. And that's one of the major reasons that there's so much chronic fatigue and so much adrenal insufficiency and you name it, thyroid dysfunction. Yes, environmental factors such as pollutants have been, no doubt about it. But also, it's the environmental, meaning the pressures that women have felt in their lives, holding down the fort in their house and holding down the fort in their job outside of the house, that they have been overloaded. And that's one reason why I saw so many women for 15 years. So, and it's been an eye-opener for this guy.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, guys don't get it. Like, I have 3 sons and a husband, and, they only see what I go through, but they still think I'm wacky, And I feel like I have a step ahead of many other women just because of, my health lifestyle. But what would you say? So you just don't really know what the reason is other than the pressures of women here versus the women in old Asia?
Well, there's, in your camp, I think this is your camp, and probably many other things as well. But the idea of nutrition certainly has played a part of it, a massive part of it, because in those cultures, if you were really tied into the old ways, you realized that you would eat seasonally to help your body to adapt to what was coming, what you're in the middle of, what season you're in the middle of. And since you're talking about a synchronization of your internal environment, your organs with certain seasons of the year, your food is a major connecting piece that helps to synchronize your internal environment with nature and what's going on. So if you're stuck in spring, and it's fall outside, those organ systems connected to fall, in this case large intestine and lung, they are so not in sync with the fall, the season you're in. And some of that can be due to the food sourcing. Because we have refrigeration, because we have the ability to ship things from many other locations, not living under your tree, not eating from under your tree, it can confuse the body energetically. See, in Chinese medicine, we're not looking at vitamin and mineral profile. We're looking at the energy of the food, and how does that energy feed the energy of your organ systems, and how does that synchronize with the seasons that you're in that point in time. And so that's a huge aspect of why they seem to have fewer problems, and we have the problems, because up until the modern times in the cities, they were eating from under their own tree. Whatever they could grow is what they were eating from their land. We've lost that through the advantage and disadvantage in some ways of modern transportation.
That's funny that you said that, because a few years ago I was getting canker sores in the winter, like just horrible canker sores. And I said something on Facebook about it, and this gal that I know who studies Chinese medicine said, "Are you eating lots of salads?" And I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "You need warming foods. You're messing up." She studies Chinese medicine, so that's funny that you just said that. She's like, "You want to eat warming foods in the winter."
Right, I mean, absolutely. She's dead on. And the reason why is, especially in most parts of the country, who's growing lettuce in January? It's very few places. Even greenhouses have difficulty in most parts of the country growing lettuce in January. Because nature's energy, let's use the winter for an example. Winter, the energy of the earth goes down into the earth. It leaves the limbs and the upper parts of the plant and goes down to the root system. The sap even does that in a tree. So we also do the same thing in our bodies. Our energy wants to sink down into the body, into the kidneys from whence they came, and they want to hold up for wintertime. And because of that need to be stored in hibernating, a partial hibernation, they want to stay warm. If you're feeding your body cold and cooling foods in the wintertime, it is counterproductive to what the energy is wanting to do in the body. It's the same way of coming up on this as we're entering into winter here soon, and we're moving in towards this New Year's resolution that we seem to do in this country quite a bit. And people suddenly want to drop 20 pounds or whatever it is. That is absolutely counter to what nature is asking your body to do, which is to conserve, not do away with. Because your body still thinks, oh, hey, this is winter coming up. We may run out of food. We must hang on to everything we can to survive it. It does not understand that there's a grocery store nearby. It doesn't get that. It's going by the bulk of human history, which says you must conserve until spring and new life comes forth to bring us food source.
Interesting. So are you
saying... So you want to warm the energy.
So does the metabolism slow in the winter just because it's winter?
Absolutely.
So what if
And to force it to try to speed back up again is damaging.
So what if you live in an area and were born and raised and live in a warmer environment and a warmer climate? Would that still be the case?
Yes, absolutely. As long as you're part of the northern hemisphere, of course. You have to reverse things if you go to Australia or someplace like that. But yeah, your body, because I lived in South Florida, right, for 3 years. So I got to experience the winters south of Fort Lauderdale. And we were taught in that school because it was a 5-element or 5-season based Chinese medical model. And so we were encouraged to pay attention and feel the energy of the seasons as they were changing, even in a place as mild as South Florida. Now, being from Missouri, I had a full 4 seasons and got to feel it very distinctly in that environment. So it was challenging in South Florida when it's, people are throwing on coats when it's 60 degrees outside because they're not used to it for most of the year. And so you definitely would still alter your diet even in a place like South Florida or Southern California or South Texas, or pick your state.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. I would think that it would just be depending on whatever environment, like if it was colder or warm outside.
Well, look, there's exceptions, and there's a degree of mildness and degree of extreme that you have to factor in, certainly for where you're living. Some people have dysfunction in their digestive system, and we call it stomach fire. It's where there's too much heat in the stomach. And so they have to alter their intake to bring that system back to balance again. So maybe some cooling foods for that individual might be called for in late fall or something, whereas the rest of the population, you wouldn't want to do that because they don't have that particular dysfunction. Or living in South Florida, if the coolest it gets is 55 degrees, you're going to get away with more cooling foods than someone living in Minnesota.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
So you have to kind of factor it in. Yeah, there's a bit of tinkering with it. And Chinese medicine's not about hard, fast rules. It's about feeling your environment and responding to what you're noticing in your environment, not a lot of rules and regulations.
Okay, that's cool. That makes sense. So then getting back to the QiGong, how would somebody learn how to do it? Because I think you told me a little bit about courses or whatever. How would somebody learn how to do QiGong to help themselves? Like
Well, yeah, and I'm going to have, of course, my experience as the place from which I'm speaking. And so I'm going to say, I find that most QiGong styles nowadays are not as effective as maybe they were when they were created 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, if they're that old. And you've played the whisper game maybe as a kid growing up?
Telephone?
Where you have a circle of... Or telephone, yeah, telephone. And so to make sure people are on the same page is what we're talking about here. It's where you whisper in the person's ear to the right of you, and there's a circle of people, and you have ending with a person to your left, and they whisper your message around the room until it gets back to you in your left ear. And you listen to how different, how distorted that information is by the time it gets back around to you. And it's always distorted. It's never the same thing you said in the person to your right. Well, this happens through history with all kinds of information, which means it can also weaken the effectiveness of whatever it is that's being passed along through that oral tradition. And so when it comes to QiGong, it seems to be the case with many forms. And so anytime you're going to buy something like a QiGong form online, or back in the day, you buy it on DVD, or it's a course that you can self-study. It's not that it's not efficacious. It is. There's probably some value. But usually I find the most powerful Qigong learn are from another individual who's actually a practiced instructor. They've been instructed by another person who's been carrying the seed, if you will, of information of that form, and are making sure that it's being passed to you, not only in the information, but in the mechanics of it, and to fine-tune how you're doing it to make sure you maximize the benefit from it. And and granted, we're part of a time now, especially moving into even more of a time, but we want to self-study online at our own pace without really a lot of external influence, because it's just easier to fit into our schedule that way. But I find that those forms that work that way are usually not as effective, as I said, as one that's being taught from an individual. There's a magic of the transfer. As you've moved into the nest world, I'm sure you've had, of course, been exposed to this idea of information being stored in a medium and then passed to a person, to a biological person. I mean, it's energy and information, but it's being passed from a water in the case of nests, something that's we associate with life, and then that's being passed along to the person that you're administering it to. And there's a magic there. We're a communal species. We love to communicate and to be with each other and to share our lives with, even if it does cause us great distress at times. It's still this innate draw to people. Yeah. So when you have a style of energy cultivation, people to people, to me, is the best way to do it.
Okay, so you've said a lot that I want to ask about. So people to people, does that mean that like you go to a live local class type thing?
It means that you can do that if you can find, let's say in Pongu Shengong, and I'll break that down for you. That just sounds like a bunch of Chinese words, which it is. Pongu basically means God, for lack of a better word, and Shun means spirit, and Gong means, again, to cultivate or to work. In that particular style, you'd find a practitioner in your area who could teach it to you in person, or, as I have done with a lot of the nests practitioners around the world, I'll do it through Skype, or in this case, Zoom, some type of video conferencing. I've taught over 60 nest practitioners my particular style of Qigong in the last, since January of this year. I've taught over 60 strictly through online conferencing.
Okay, that's awesome. I
Again,
have to do
because
that.
energy does not have, it doesn't have the restrictions of distance with what we're doing. There is no restriction. And so when people ask me, like, well, how can that possibly work? Well, if you ask, I'd say most people, meaning over 50%, do you believe in prayer? And over 50% of the people I've talked to in my life have surely said, yes, I believe in prayer of some form. Well, then I ask the question, well, do you think you have to pray for the person in the same room, or can you pray for them from a distance? And most people, of course, say from a distance is perfectly fine. And that's how this works, if you will. What does that mean? It means that in quantum physics, we talk about quantum entanglement, meaning that when you come into contact with somebody, no matter how far apart you are, there's a connection that's made automatically. And distance is not a factor. That's why that works. And there's some quantum physics principles to back up that idea.
I'm so fascinated by all that, Keith. Like I'm still only a month in, but it's mind blowing to me, and I love it so much. And so how does that differ from Reiki, or is it similar?
Great question. Well, Reiki doesn't talk about cultivation. And so I've taught a lot of Reiki practitioners this particular Qigong form. And I'll give you an example real fast. One in particular, I taught her the Qigong form, and she did it for over a year. Then she learned Reiki and launched her practice in Nashville. She, out of the gate of opening her doors to clients, was probably the most effective Reiki practitioner in all of Nashville, because she had a lot of what I call power or firepower behind her treatments. Reiki seems to tap into a body of information, which all information to me is a morphic field or a body of information. And it allows anybody, I call it the gateway energy drug, meaning the gateway means it allows people who have no background to step in the world of energy work and to instantly have a degree of results. And I love it for that. But what it doesn't have as built into it, at least in this day and time, is the way to cultivate, or the concept of cultivation of energy. So how does it differ? To me, if I'm going to work on somebody who's got really serious health issues, I definitely want to be using this particular, in my case, QiGong style, because it works at and I'm going to say something that's not FDA approved, it works at an organ level. And for me, Reiki typically doesn't, across the board, work at an organ level, a deep organ level. So I would say that's the major difference.
Okay, I need to get this class taken as soon as possible. I'm just telling you, I'm so into a self journey of healing. I have a painting that I painted in my kitchen 7 years ago. It says, "Healer, heal thyself." And the professor or the owner of the nutrition school I went to years and years ago, when we were having tea up in San Francisco one day, he said that to me and it just stuck. And so I went and I painted it in my kitchen. And with Ness and with now this QiGong, I feel like combining those two is the ultimate.
You hit it. And that's exactly what I tell the practitioners. You can imagine the last years I've done private consultations with Ness practitioners around the world. Their primary thing when they contact me is not about their clients. They're like, look, I've got a few nagging things left in my health that I really want to shore up so I can feel really confident when I heal other people, help them to heal, help to facilitate that. And the thing I tell them is exactly what you just said. If you can take the information, the unique information that's in Ness's proprietary knowledge base with the energy of this QiGong style, you will overcome, I do believe you'll overcome anything. Even if you're at death's door, which I have seen.
Oh my gosh. I know right now that this is the reason why I was so attracted to you and your goofy videos.
I know I'm not being as goofy today. I'm sorry.
No. I'm so happy because I love learning. I feel like a sponge, and I get so frustrated when there's people around me that I'm trying to help inspire and teach and motivate to not do the Western way, and they just are so closed-minded. So with that said, can we talk about Ness, and how would you explain it to somebody who is completely unfamiliar with energy work, just like the random Joe Blow on the street? How would you explain the system?
So I try to use technology because people are at least have a rudimentary understanding of technology, meaning their computers in their lives. Computers meaning their desktop, laptops, their phones, their cell phones. Everybody has access to a computer because most people have a smartphone. So what do I do with that? I'm like, well, look, here's the deal. How does a phone work? Basically, it has an energy source, which is electricity. It has a mechanical aspects to it that allow all of this system to be running on. There's a physical presence, and there's information that is moved around within that device so that you can process more information, producing things. In this case, you can run applications, or we buy apps, right, to work on our phones. So how does Ness work? How do we make this analogous, human to computer? Well, you have a physical presence, of course, that everything works on. That's your body. You have an energy source like your phone or your computer, which is electrical, sort of, in its nature. And then you have an operating system, meaning how all your organs communicate with each other and everybody moves and flows and communicates to keep the mechanism running at optimal levels. But that takes specific information. And as you eat food and take supplements, you are installing apps to run on that operating system. So when we're talking about infoceuticals, which is what we call the structured water that carries the information that is unique to Ness, you are taking the equivalent of a flash drive that you'd have for your computer, and you're plugging it into the port, in this case your mouth, and you're administering the information on that thumb drive into your hardware, in this case your body. So the supplement, the food, goes in and it introduces new information, additional information into your computer. And if you have the proper amount of energy, and the proper type and specificity of information, then your whole machine runs at optimal levels. If any of that gets thrown off, you need correction of of information, and a greater quantity of quality energy. So here's your information and energy. So how does NES work? Well, it says many times the information in your body through life impact of trauma, and that can mean a lot of things, not just a car accident, not just the loss of a loved one or a serious illness. It can mean any kind of shock to your system. This can distort the information, i.e. like a virus that you get in your computer or your phone. And so that information needs corrected. You need an update like you get on your phone or your computer. And that infoceutical contains the corrective information to install into your computer to correct that distorted information. Therefore, eliminating the virus, making our analogy back to the computer again, which sets your operational system back into working order, allowing the apps to work as they're supposed to. So when people are like, well, I don't understand. How in the world, Keith, can you possibly put information in water and my body know what to do with that? Well, I'm like, well, that is the beauty of how you are constructed. Because when you do put the correct information back into your body recognizes that it is the correct information and makes the substitution. Goes, whoa, this goes at location 0.11256. I'm making that up, of course. I know what really is supposed to go there. And it discharges, if you will, the distorted information and puts the update that the infoceutical gives you into that location, reestablishing optimal operation of that organ system.
Wow.
It works like your phone. It works like your computer. So to summarize, what is that? You have dysfunction in your body through life events? Great. Then you're going to correct that information with an infoceutical, which is much like a liquid thumb drive. And then your organs then know how to operate at an optimal level, restoring health. I don't know how simplified that explanation is, but that's the one I give people.
Yeah, it's a good one, actually. And then how does the My Health fit into that equation?
So the My Health was a device created by NES later down the line. The infoceutical came first, and then the My Health came along later, put together by a brilliant team of engineers. And they took the proprietary mapping of the human body field, is what we call it in the NES world. They took that information plus many other leading edge technologies and combined it into one device. Never been done before. I still don't think we have another one in the world that I've ever seen that does all the things that My Health does. So what does it do? It works on body or off body, meaning there are electrodes that are a part of the mechanism, which is the size of a remote control for a television, by the way. That's how small it is. And you can use it on body. For instance, I had a girl who had a disconnected, she's a yogi in Nashville, had an accident, disconnected her tendon, sprinting across her house to go answer a phone or something, and it popped. She had to have it reconnected. Yeah, she's like, really? All the things I do that are physically demanding and I have tendon pop when I'm sprinting across the house. So she gets it reconnected and she's like, it's just not healing like it's supposed to. I don't have the flexibility, so and so. And I said, look, you're moving to Colorado, right? Like in 2 weeks. She goes, yes. I said, get your fanny in here and let's work on this tendon with the My Health. So I used it on body and I used different sets of information, much of it unique to NES, that were emanating from those electrodes on that scar tissue and in that connected area of the tendon. And by the time she left, an hour and a half later, she went to some type of soiree that evening, and she had to be on her feet for 2 hours, which she hadn't done since surgery because it was too painful. She emailed or texted me at the end of the night and said, you won't believe this. I'm leaving the party. I stood on my feet all 2 hours. I feel fantastic. I have not had this range of motion since before I had the accident. That was one session. Now, that's an exceptional session. It doesn't always work so beautifully, so quickly. But my point in giving that example is that's an on-body of how to work on a painful area that truly has had some severe disruption. And one session, she was tremendously better because it gave her the right information for her body to heal. Now, do you have to use it on body? No, you don't. You can use it in a broadcast mode, meaning it's radiating about 3 feet from the device, and it will broadcast those same multiple sets of information to whatever area of the body you're focusing on. And your body will take that information and implement it, much like it does the infoceuticals, the structured water. And so it really, the device is used by a practitioner or a client, much like a booster shot. It isn't to take the place, it doesn't take the place of the infoceuticals, but it serves as a great support system for them in your body's healing.
So the infoceuticals are the primary support, and then the My Health is the complementary to the infoceuticals?
Very well said.
Okay, so that's...
Very well said.
Okay, cool. And then, so,
I would encourage all your clients to see you for this. Do you have a My Health at this point? Are you
Yes.
My Health ready?
Yes, I have one.
Perfect. Then you've got the arsenal. I would encourage all the people listening to this, if they're either in your area or they're halfway across the world, because we can do at least the infoceuticals. The infoceuticals can be done anywhere. You could remotely scan anybody. And so I would encourage whoever's listening to this now or in the future, well in the future, to get a hold of you, and they will have a life-changing experience through what you're able to provide for them.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm finishing my training in Florida in January, so I can't wait for that.
Oh, I'll see you there. I'm teaching that.
Yay! I'm so excited. Well, you're going to see me sooner because I need to take your class.
Okay.
I have to do QiGong. You've got me hooked, I'm telling you. So, okay, so what is your favorite accomplishment, Keith?
Ooh, wow. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Well, it's the
okay,
time
I'm going to totally get off track.
Go ahead.
Okay. My greatest accomplishment at this point was about letting go of something. So I let go of a relationship, a long-term relationship, and I had the courage to go through that because it was a huge ordeal, to then, this is going to be so crazy, to be with my fiance now, Angel. And she has taught me more in the last 6 years than anybody has taught me in the prior, 41 years it would have been at that point. I'm 47 now. 41 years of my life. And so my greatest accomplishment, honestly, was to have the courage to let go of a former life and to go into a new chapter with someone who is my daily constant teacher. And she's taught me more about the beauty of women and men because of our potential as through her eyes. But she's taught me so much about what it means to go inside and take inventory and accountability of my emotions, accountability of my actions, of my thoughts, everything. She's taught me so much. And so that's been my greatest accomplishment, was what I let go of in order to turn a chapter.
That's really cool. Is she also in the healing space?
Oh yeah. She's the best. She's the best at what she does. And her ability to move into a person and to feel your deepest pain, to know your deepest pain, to help you to find what you just can't seem to suss out within yourself. And then to have because she does QiGong every day too. This is where she's got a great advantage over a lot of other practitioners in her field, is that not only can she help you identify what's going on inside of you so quickly, she has then the energy to help you to energetically change that pattern of dysfunction into something that's healthy. And so, yeah, she's magic.
Wow,
magic.
That's lovely. That's I hope she can hear that explanation, because I think she'll be honored. That was really cool.
Well, she's beautiful.
That's awesome. I've been married in February. It'll be 29 years. That's crazy.
Wow.
I know.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So what advice would you give to our listeners in closing here?
Be open. Know that none of us, no matter how much education we've had, how much experience we've had in life, we only have scratched the surface of what there is to know. And I don't mean just more data in your brain. I mean deep knowing in the fiber of who you are that no one could shake you from. It's knowing, it's experiential, it is transformational when we can be open to new experience, new information, new transformation. And that's my biggest encouragement. If something draws you in, like you said today, If something draws you, listen to your heart and move in that direction and explore what is drawing you in. There's something there for you. So don't let fear or previous belief structure keep you from being curious.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's so true. And that inner voice is there for a reason, The
wisdom of the heavens moves through our hearts. That is the place, in my experience, of our connection to all the wisdom there is in the universe is through your heart, not your gray matter in your head.
Yeah, that's good. So how can people find you, Keith?
Well, right now, our brand new website is still under construction because we made a move to Washington, state of Washington. So everything's built around out here. So it's all being retooled. So I can't send you to a website. However, I can send you to my Facebook page, which is a great way to connect. And that is very simply Keith Coley, Life Force.
Awesome. And we'll have a link to the show notes.
That's my business connection.
We'll have a link definitely in the show
Absolutely.
notes so people can actually just click on it and find you easily. So
Perfect. Sounds fantastic.
Well, you are just a doll, and I'm so thankful that you came on the show and shared your wonderful wisdom that I'm going to actually take advantage of and move forward in my well, I need it. I'm 53, it's like I have two aging parents that I do not want to go down those pathways. So I am trying to become the best version of myself possible. Then I can help others do the same, right?
Absolutely. No, and you're on your way. I can tell. You got the curiosity. That's all you need.
Well, thank you. I'm pretty pumped. So thanks for coming on the show. I appreciated you taking time out of your busy day to do that.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been a very, very lovely interview, and I'm very thankful you asked me.
Thank you so much for listening. I just loved learning from him and his wisdom. And so more people can find this great show, and so more women can age younger, please head on over to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and share the episode with a friend who you think would benefit from this awesome wisdom of Keith. And thank you so much. Make it a great day. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.